Okay, welcome everybody to the Frontend Lighting Talks. Today again, 20th of November. We have one online speaker and one offline speaker in the building, which will talk about all the great topics where you can make impact with your front end. Please mind the questionnaire is in the chat, so you can put your questions in there. You can ask anything about front end related. There are lots of front enders there. Also, do take note, the session is being recorded. You will be on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You can also find all the amazing other talks there as well. And please mute yourself. Today's team, we will have Vlad Baktiv as a speaker. We will have Emiel Kwakkel as a speaker, of course, and myself as the host for today, your regular host for the Frontend Lighting Talks. Well, our Frontend Meetup group is organized by frontenders and for frontenders. You can find us via Meetup. You probably did because you joined via Meetup, but also for our internal speakers, which is also nice to join via Meetup as well to share it with your colleagues at the client. Well, links to YouTube. We are doing lots of sessions. Last one was about front-end architecture, but we also talked about security and front-end, cloud and front-end, back-end and front-end. A lot of stuff, also UX and front-end actually. So if you have a front-end topic which you want to be covered or you want to present yourself, you can always contact us to be here. Just like Vlad did, he also contacted us, which is great. Well, we are front-enders, but we work for a company, of course, which is Sosti. I will not do any commercial talk or recruitment talk. We are developers, we don't want that. We got enough on that on LinkedIn in that case. But we do awesome stuff. That's the conclusion. We do everything with cloud automation. Front end, of course, which is for us very important, I would say. You name it, and we probably have it. And same goes for the clients. We're Netherlands-based, so feel free to check it out in that case. But you're not here for that. You're here for the talks. So this is the program timeline, small introductions. But then we're going to look at Vlad. We will present about building front-end testing framework for B2B SaaS, which we'll be talking about lots and lots of interesting problems he solved as well. Then sustainability, the hidden impact of developers. Well, this kind of blew my mind to see what is possible actually you can do as a developer instead of all the generic talks about sustainability. I will build up the pressure for you, Emiel. But it's very interesting to see what you can actually do in your day-to-day job. And then the end is approximately at 5:30. Emiel is here to talk about sustainability. So, Emiel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll try to share my screen.
No, it's visible.
Oh, it's visible. Nice. I'll dismiss this. Yeah, there's a little bit of delay in the slides, but yeah, that should go unnoticed, hopefully. I want to talk about the hidden impact of developers on sustainability. And that basically the choices that you are making in the front end have a big impact on the end result, on the level of sustainability of an application. But first, before we get started, I want to have a little bit of interaction. I'm going to ask a question. You can all put the answer in the chat, and we're going to see who comes closest. There are no prizes to win, but it might be a fun way to start this presentation, because my question is, how many Tesla Model Ys can you buy if we would stop wasting money spent in the cloud? So think about cloud hosting providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud in Asia, IBM, DigitalOcean, all those types of cloud providers. How many Tesla Model Ys could we buy if we would stop wasting money spent in the cloud?
Well, at least one for everyone here, I would say. We all drive one, I guess. Here, 234 million, 600K, zero.
Zero, nice.
Or in
very
fact,
optimistic.
it will also be 1,554K, 1 billion even.
1 billion.
601 to top it off, Edward.
42 maybe as well. Yeah. Some are close, some aren't. But it's I can do a quick math here. One thing that's good to note is that the cloud has become a little bit more efficient. With the State of the Cloud report from Flexera last year, companies self-estimated that they wasted around 28% of all their cloud spendings. This year it's only 27%, so the cloud has become 1% more efficient. At the same time, the cloud has grown with 20% to $675 billion for 2024, and that's an estimation of Gartner. Yeah, if you take 27% waste of money spent, then you can do the quick math at $182 billion is wasted this year on cloud. With the Tesla Model Y costing around $44,000, it will be 4.1 million Teslas that you can buy with all the money that you could save if we would stop wasting money spent in the cloud. In the Netherlands, we have around 500,000 IT professionals, people working in our industry, so we could all drive per person 7.5 Teslas, which is not very sustainable, of course, but you could buy 7.5 Teslas if we in the Netherlands are going to solve the world problem. I did the same calculation last year, and then we could buy around 6 Teslas per person. So if you think about that, the cloud has become more efficient with 1%, okay, but in absolute numbers, the numbers of waste in the cloud is only increasing. And when you look at environmental versus financial, there's of course not a one-on-one comparison, because there are also pricing structures that can be considered as wasted money spent. But at the same time, you're also being wasting when you are doing over provisioning, all those kind of setups in the cloud that are not downscaling when you don't need your setup. So there is a line between wasted money spent in the cloud financially and also the environmental aspect. Money is quite often in the cloud a good indicator on how much you are polluting when you don't have exact carbon figures. So quite a lot of waste. Who was actually the one who came the closest?
Tilma Vedde was the one closest. So congratulations, Tilma.
Applause for you. Great. But first, I haven't introduced myself, so I want to, of course, as a front-end developer, introduce myself via my own website. This is me, nice large picture about me. I'm working for Society for about 9 years, worked for clients like ICS, Rabobank, the Dutch police the last 5 years, and currently I'm working at Triodos, one of the most sustainable banks in the Netherlands. And for Society, I'm the subject matter expert front-end, so a bit of the go-to guy if you need anyone about this expertise front-end for sales, recruitment, or internally within our community. And my website also got me into sustainability because I did a quick scan at websitecarbon.com, and I found out that my website was actually dirtier than 93% of all the web pages tested. For every page view, around 5 grams of CO2, which came to me a bit as a shock. I didn't expect that such a small website could have such an impact on sustainability. One good thing was it was running on sustainable energy, and at the same time, wasting sustainable energy, I think, is just as bad as not using it. So it's not a good thing when you are using inefficiently sustainable energy. Let's assume my small website, emielkwakkel.nl, has 10,000 visitors, hypothetically.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Let's hope so. Yeah, that maybe after today's talk we have some more. But that would be enough to drive an electrical car for about 9,000 kilometers. That's a road trip from here to Greece, and not one road trip, but 2 road trips from here to Greece. So that's all the energy being consumed for 10,000 page views. And when I was building this website, I was working at that time at Rabobank, which had millions of page views every month. So suddenly I had the idea that the choices that I was unconsciously making and not really making the right choices were having quite some impact.
There's one question, if it can be in between, is how did you calculate the wasted energy per visit?
Yeah, the exact calculation is from website Carbon. So I don't think it's exact science, but it goes from the setup of your server combined with all the data which is going over the line. So if you send out lots of big pictures or big JavaScript files and everything is not optimized, it all adds up. I don't have the exact calculations, but I think it's a good indicator if you're on the right track. I shouldn't really make exact claims about real pollution or real carbon emissions there, but it gives a good indication that you're probably not making the most sustainable choices.
Thank you.
Which choices did I make that were quite not the right one? I was using client-side rendering, so I sent my whole complete Angular framework over the line. It was completely over-engineered, which was cool as a showcase of coding, but it was not really optimized. The server was complete overkill. I paid around 30 euros a month. With my new server setup, I only paid 5 euros a month, so 6 times less spendings as well. But it was able to handle huge loads of data for a small website, so that really added also to the not being so sustainable. My complete website after compilation was about 41 megabytes. With JavaScript files, CSS files, everything, the images, of course, which were also large. And as front-end developer, we like to look into the bundles. I finally did this also for my own website, and I found out that it was not that much optimized. Let's just look at the vendor. So the frameworks, the libraries. There was already 5.8 megabytes for ES 2015. I also had a version of ES5, so you can double that. Just looking at Angular, 3.4 megabytes. Angular 11, also not the most latest and greatest one. 270 kilobytes for the forms, but I wasn't using forms on my website, so there was also a little bit of waste.
Nice.
I had some icons on my website, a few. But that added 1.4 megabytes as well to the whole bundle size. Looking at dates, I wanted to display my age on the website. Emiel is a certain age. And I was too lazy to update my website yearly, so I thought, let's add moment. Later, I removed my age from the website, but the package moment was still in my bundle, including 500 kilobytes of my locale, so I could display my age in Russian, which I'm not going to do, but it was still in the bundle. So it's 500 kilobytes just for translation files that were unused. All things that you could easily fix, of course. When you look at this, you see this is wrong, it's not needed, but you have to look at it. ArcGIS, exactly the same story. But the next one is also a nice example. I wanted to have a nice percentage being shown on my website about my skills, and this has a nice animation, and I copied some CSS files. It added up to 800 kilobytes just for an animated chart, basically, percentage. You ask yourself why. I already answered that a little bit. If you're not aware, if you don't have insights like Website Carbon, or if you're not analyzing your bundles, and you have machinery that is so fast that you don't really notice the performance loss, because I was just paying too much for my whole server setup, you don't actually notice and you make the wrong decisions. The actions or the decisions that you're making are not correct. So, of course, I had to redo it. This is my new website. It has a bit of green on it, smaller images. It's now a static website. I use tree shaking to shake everything out of the bundle that was not necessary. I used a few virtual DOM, which is quite more performant as well. My server, as I said, was now 6 times lower in cost, but also just performant as needed. Used, of course, the latest and greatest Vue, Nuxt, all the cool frameworks that you want to use nowadays. And my whole website turned out to be 1.1 megabytes, including all the styling, images, JavaScript files. And suddenly my whole JavaScript bundle was only 250 kilobytes and 100 kilobytes when it was gzipped on my server. So that's, I think, quite an improvement, and the performance went up, the cost went down. So I would say it's quite a sustainable success story, maybe also from FinOps perspective, quite good.
Your own wallet, yeah.
Yeah, it's all one big, how do you say, positive news show here. And suddenly my web page was 95% cleaner than all the web pages tested, and only 0.06 grams of CO2 was emitted. I don't know percentage-wise, but it was 5 grams before, so it's quite an improvement. The amount for, if you have now 10,000 page views, you can now drive an electrical car for about 112 kilometers instead of 2 road trips to Greece. That's about my personal introduction, I think. When we are talking about sustainability and the definition of sustainability, I think we spent a lot of time on definitions, too much time maybe even on definitions, but I want to highlight this one because and when we're talking about future generations, I have 2 kids myself and I see them growing up, and basically you want to make sure that your children or the future generations also have all the things they need to fulfill their own needs. And we shouldn't be selfish as a generation, using all the scarce materials that are available to us, consuming all the energy. I think this very old quote from the UN, it's from 1987, 2 years before I was born. But I think this wraps up why sustainability is so important. And if we then are going to talk about green IT, sustainable IT, circular IT, I think that are all levels, something like a ladder where you can climb up the ladder. When you are green, you are not necessarily sustainable. When you're sustainable, you are not necessarily circular, but it can go the other way around. So with green, you are providing a more efficient alternative compared to the thing you're comparing it to, of course. I have an example later on. With sustainable IT, you are more looking at the whole environment. So not just the one product, but where is the product running in? Maybe your whole company can be sustainable or not, or the whole organization. And when you're looking at circular, you are more looking at the whole ecosystem in which your application, your organization is running. So promoting the circular economy principles like refurbishment, reuse, recycling, those kind of things. And then, of course, applied to IT. So this is a nice example, I think, about green versus sustainable. If you look at an incandescent bulb, a gloeilamp, it's 85% less energy efficient compared to a LED bulb. So you'd say the LED bulb is the green alternative. When you're looking at disposal, an incandescent bulb consists of glass and 2 types of metal. You can just throw it away in the garbage and that's it. It can be quite easily be recycled. When you look at the LED bulb, you have glass, often lots of plastic also for the diffuser in the LED light. Depending on the color, you have gallium nitride or gallium arsenide. Circuit boards, with smart lighting, you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chips also added to it. And while a LED light could last longer, with all those very small components and maybe even chips that have to be updated, they can also break quite easily. And when a LED light breaks, it's considered e-waste. When an incandescent bulb breaks, it's considered garbage. So I think on a sustainability level, you could argue that when properly used, an incandescent bulb could be more sustainable in the overall picture compared to all the LED lights that are being thrown away, end up as e-waste somewhere. I have a different example and I want to show my iPhone. It's the iPhone 12 mini, the last one in the small form factor. I'm quite happy about it. I bought it in 2020 when it was introduced. And I use it for both my work and my private life. Quite happy about it as well, because you have just one agenda, one email application. But after a while, security went up within the organization, so we had to get our device managed. And with making your device managed, you also are handing over more rights to the organization you're working for. And more your device is being seen as something that's being used for work purposes. So apps are being blocked, websites are being blocked that are not for working purposes. File sharings are being blocked. So more and more you have to find alternatives to still be able to use your phone for both work and private life. That's why this year I had to do I try to make it a sustainable choice by buying a Fairphone. It's, I think, the most sustainable phone, or the most green phone if you compare it to other phones that you can buy at the moment. But still, everything comes with a cost. So 64 kilograms of carbon emission for the whole life cycle of the iPhone mini, and about 42 of carbon emissions for the whole life cycle, like making it, shipping it, using it, recovering it, for the Fairphone. So the most sustainable thing is just having one phone and making sure that you use it until the life has completely died out of it. Meaning, security is coming with a cost. Why is the Fairphone green or sustainable, depending on how you look at it? They try to make it easier to repair. When you are repairing it, they promote repairment by making the replacement parts quite cheap. When they are making new modules, they try to make it as much as possible fair or recycled materials. And they have, of course, good hardware support and software support. So let's look at security and sustainability. I think you can view that as non-functional requirements. So something that you can take measures in to promote security or to promote sustainability within the organization. And what would happen if you would say we prioritize security over sustainability? Then you get those types of decisions. You want to make sure that your devices are single purpose. When they are single purpose, you have more control over them, so less security risks. I worked for an organization that was quite into security as well. I'm not going to name names, but it's on my LinkedIn. And they, of course, don't want you to leak data when your device is being obsolete. There could still be data on your hard drive, for example, and they don't want any security threats there, so they destroy all the devices that are not being used anymore. They could have got a perfectly well second life somewhere else. So single lifetime devices. You can promote using VPNs, which is quite some extra traffic. You can disable USB, which can add security risks. And at the other end, when you prioritize sustainability over security, you could do the opposite. You could look at having multi-purpose devices, one device for multi-purposes, maybe even share your device with colleagues, or making sure there's more freedom for people using them to make the device managed, so they have more use cases to use a single device for. Just a few examples. It all comes down to making the decision as a company, as an organization, maybe also as a person, like what do I find important? Am I going to maximize on a non-functional requirement like sustainability, or am I going to maximize on security? So it's a conscious choice, and you don't view security as some sort of a silo. For developers, we already were talking a bit, Vlad was talking about pipelines. I think this is a nice example as well. We can talk about code quality versus sustainability. It's not always versus. Sometimes it can also be code quality that promotes sustainability. But just for this presentation, to make it not that much deep with all different layers, I use it as code quality.
Same goes for security, right?
Of course,
yeah. Versus,
yeah. You can have both if you make conscious right choices. But let's say it's versus. If you focus on code quality, you want to run the pipeline after every commit, and you are always going to run the complete pipeline to make sure you are not going to miss a thing. You might schedule hourly, daily, or weekly builds, and you make sure that the whole setup is as production-like as possible. On the other end, if you want to focus on code quality, but you have more priority on sustainability, the setup is not going to be production-light. It might be a lightweight setup. You are only going to run the pipeline when absolutely needed. You might introduce caching, so the things that are not changed, you can just get out of the cache. And you can introduce something within Nix, for example, like an affected analysis. So you can say, like, for this change, only these parts of the application has been changed. So you also only need to run the pipeline for those parts. Also here, it's a question, it all comes down to what is the balance you want for yourself or for your organization. let's say this presentation is inspiring you and you want to do more on sustainability. It's always good to start with the green software principles. You also have the Green Software Foundation. You have a certification as well that I recommend you to get. Let's say for starting within sustainability, start with making sure your application become more greener. So the green software principles, making sure that you are more energy efficient, hardware efficient, and when you are consuming energy, that you promote carbon awareness. And I hear you asking, what is carbon awareness? It can be three things. Shifting your load to a place on the earth where there is more green energy available, or shifting your load towards a moment in time when there is more green energy available, or shifting the intensity of your operations. So this is a nice example of spatial shifting. On the 6th of August, when I took this screenshot, there was 240 grams of CO2 emitted for every kilowatt. And in Sweden, you had only 11 grams of CO2 at that moment of time. That was the carbon impact of 1 kilowatt of energy. And with temporal shifting, you have the same principle, but then over time, you are going to look at what moment there's the most sunlight or the most wind, the most green energy available. And with demand shaping, the last one is that you're going to make sure that if you have lots of energy available, that it's green, you are going to do as much as possible. So for example, in the middle of the day, maybe do 3 or 4 laundries on the extra fast program. But when you are running your laundries in the middle of the night with less sun or less green energy available, you can run it on eco mode. And then I think I'm running out of time. So coming to the conclusion, what can you do aside from those principles? Get yourself a certificate from the Green Software Foundation. It goes a lot more in depth about all the things you can do for energy and hardware efficiency. Read about sustainability versus green IT. And have good discussions with each other and maybe also in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Emiel. Please give him a round of applause in that case. Well, first of all, very interesting to see your personal website updates. There was even a chat of, oh, you're a model with your picture. So it's very good to see. I really like the different parts also about bundle size, because lots of people don't think about that, and actually impacts, well, not only sustainability, but I also think the performance of your own website.
Yeah.
I think it's also a big factor that you can take into account. So well done. I don't see any questions in the chat. We of course have answered already some during your presentation, so that's good. But maybe for me, if I want to start tomorrow with sustainability, what could I do in my day-to-day job except for doing the Green Foundation course, of course? Maybe looking at the pipelines, for instance.
Yeah, it all starts with seeing where your organization is in the whole process. You always start with awareness. Is my rest of the organization, are they aware that the choices you are making actually do have an impact on sustainability? If not, then that's the first thing to focus on. If you think there is awareness, but we need to make more actions, you can view, like, do we have insights? Are there dashboards available on energy use, maybe on cloud consumptions? Are there FinOps initiatives? Can we maybe combine FinOps and GreenOps and make it like sustainable FinOps? So we can make decisions that are promoting also the FinOps side, the financial side, but also have a positive impact on sustainability. And once you have those awareness, you have insights, focus on all the actions you can take in your day-to-day job by making your own insights, seeing where you can have the big benefits, and start from there.
Nice, thank you. I think that's a good start, at least, and then you can already make some impact on your own. You of course need the organization to make a big impact, but you can start yourself. I'll see one last comment. Well, we are so concerned about CO2. What do you think about rich people traveling between continents with their private jets? So a personal question, I would say.
Yeah, it goes without saying that traveling with private jets is the least efficient way of traveling. So you can't say people don't fly at all anymore. There is some urge in people to also explore and travel, and you have to make the decision how much you are going to travel, if you can have a greener alternative. This year I went to Sustainability Live. I could travel to a conference because years ago I won the Societist of the Year award. I could just pick any conference I could travel to, and first they suggested me to going to Las Vegas for a nice conference. But I thought talking about sustainability, that might not be the most sustainable way to fill in my price. So I traveled to London with a train. We went to Sustainability Live, in really interesting topics about sustainability, of course. So it's about decision making, but I'm also not going to say no one has to be able to step into a plane anymore from this moment of time. It's about making choices.
Making conscious choices. I think that's a general remark here. Thank you, Emiel. Well done. That was the last presentation of today. One small last announcement for this one. In our meetup group, we will be back next year, around February probably, where we have an intense demo session. The meetup will be probably live around December, so please watch your emails. We will send it to you. If you have any topics, feedback, or suggestions, or you want to present yourself, you can also contact me via Meetup or via LinkedIn. That's also possible. I would give it one last moment for if there are questions for Vlad, which did an amazing presentation about the testing and also the complete scope of his product, which was very complex, or Emiel about sustainability, of course. And you can contact myself for any things regarding the Frontend Lighting Talks. Well, that's it. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening, I would say.